Yeah, no, it crashed at the very beginning.
Yeah,
not a single word that you said
how
came
it goes,
through.
you know.
Take
Oh my
to make sure.
gosh. Okay, well, stream crashes at all the best times. We're doing something different today. We're doing a talk rather than a session because people are out and we threw this together last minute. But we've got some questions that we'll go through. Just chat about the campaign. And if you've got questions, you can go ahead and put them down in the live chat. And we'll go ahead and get started here. So for starters, because I like to throw people on the spot, we'll go ahead and start off with Austin because I know he can handle it. Austin, what were Boko's impression of the rest of the characters?
This is sort of a loaded question.
Exactly.
I think going down the list.
No, see, we're all drunk around the tavern table talking shit to each other right now.
First of all, just some history. Boko has had all of like 3 social interactions his entire life before being thrust into the world.
Those characters are so fun to play.
That many.
So yeah, showing up, especially with like the first person he thought was interesting was Cade. He latched on to Cade originally at first, just because she seemed to be such a powerful person. But after finding a little bit more about her, he found out that she's sort of this very captain, very authoritative figure, but also very controlling. And so Boko sort of shifted a little bit away from that. That was his reaction of Cade, and you can see they do kind of butt heads a little bit. So that's part of one thing. Boko has really taken a shine to Sindri though, and has sort of this compatriot anarchy vibe with Sindri, because Sindri seems to be very like stick it to the man, which Boko can support. Boko still, I guess, he saw Roland and had a pretty good connection with Roland at first, just because he also looks strange and looks like he doesn't belong. So that kind of linked them up. Same thing with Jasira. Jasira was fantastic. Even from like the very beginning on the beach, Jasira and Tove sitting by themselves, Boko extending like the olive branch, offering them fish and things like that. That was super interesting. So, and then Clyde was a little rough at first. Boko was very shy and not so keen to approach Clyde. But after getting to know him and seeing how supportive Clyde is, and especially with all the people he's met so far, like. Yeah, he met a bunch of people at the Tower of the Artificers who were trying to steal all his stuff, and then pirates are trying to steal all his stuff, and then people on the island he has to give his stuff away. Clyde's the only person that's like, yeah, dude, like I'll help you get your stuff back.
Sure.
So Clyde's a homie.
It's all part of the con before Clyde steals all your stuff.
Yeah. And every
Get
time
all the good stuff in one place.
And every time Boko is around the Shalt compliments him, and that makes Boko feel weird. So,
never mind. There's the con.
I think that's a pretty good summary.
Boko's getting tingly whenever the Shalt's near. It's got to be the steam.
Boko goes, "What is this feeling?"
The sudden and new.
Wow. But yeah, I think that's about it. Unless anybody's got anything they want to like cut Boko for.
So I did want to pull back because we haven't gotten too much of a chance to actually talk through many people's character art that got published way back when. So with Boko's art, what was your favorite part of the art? What was your favorite aspect of Boko that you think got captured with that drawing or with that picture? And I'll see if we can throw it up.
So I guess this is a little bit above the table, perhaps a little bit too far above the table, but I don't think it's going to give anything seriously crazy away. But seeing Boko's art, the prosthetics were fantastic. The facial appearance, the markings were fantastic. But honestly, when I looked at Boko's art and I saw the bandolier with all of the trinkets, and what I had initially said was, he carries all of these trinkets, but I hadn't given any, or fearless leader went through my backstory and picked a couple trinkets that were very close to Boko that I didn't even know they were. And now that they are on his bandolier, especially the gear and the severed hand, like these things are extraordinarily important to him. And I had no idea.
There is a severed hand.
Yeah. And so they were just things that I had tucked into my backstory that had served a point to prove a point here and there. And then the DM and the artist pulled them out and stuck them into Boko's art, and it just made them plot points, like huge plot points. And it was really cool.
Yeah, a huge shout out to Jeff Santos for anyone who's not familiar. He did all the character art for this and did an absolutely amazing job with it. Just
as you can tell,
good.
Boko looks fucking thrilled to be here.
But yeah, alrighty. So we'll just kind of move down the line of what we've got here. So we'll go over to David next. David, what was Roland's impression of all of the characters the first time they met?
So Roland came in and he was basically just kind of plopped in a new situation and trying to figure out how to get home. Clyde was one of the ones that stood out very quickly. I think the first name that he had for him was Short and Loud. And it was just kind of that really irking him that Clyde is basically the exact opposite, right? He's loud, he's impetuous, and makes snap decisions based off of more emotional input than logic. But he still generally comes to the right decision, which is just kind of like just this error 404 does not compute going on in Roland's head. But the moment that really kind of got Roland's respect is Clyde being willing to lose an eye rather than not be himself. So that Roland can kind of relate to that a bit.
A little similar.
A little bit.
Oh, that eyeball thing had me real freaked out for a long time.
I can't believe you guys rolled as well as you did. That was supposed to be like a long-term thing.
And I could see that was a whole arc that we were just like, nah, done.
Yep.
It was crazy because
we even got the companion, the bonus companion.
Yeah, when you guys came up with that idea to try and just we're gonna handle it here, we're gonna handle it right now. I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, you can certainly try, but this is an intense medical procedure that we're going into, and the roles just came through. Like the things made sense the way that you guys handled them, and it's like, you know what? Sure.
Just like yeah, thieves' tools in the woods. Let's do this.
Yeah, like sometimes
better than the wiggly in the brain.
Yeah, sometimes you can't let a good idea that you have as a DM hold back the players from success, and I think that was such a cool example of that.
Thank goodness for your sleep spell.
Yeah.
And that's fine. You have a bunch of other NPCs that were on that beach. Okay,
shout out to Sindri. Don't fight it.
Oh no. The worst thing he could have said. The only thing he could have said to make Clyde not want to do this anymore. Like,
so
maybe they aren't actually going to get this thing out of me. I don't know these people that well.
I thought that was a super interesting thing, too, because Roland was like, I need surgical tools. And Boko's like, here. Like,
I've got
use these. And Roland's like, awesome, I have all the tools. I could do it. Boko was just like, this is going to be interesting. Let's watch and see what happens.
Impromptu eye surgery. Ooh, impromptu eye surgery. Take 2.
Yeah, with Sabine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if I had nickel every time that my character performed a successful eye surgery, I'd have 2 nickels, but it's weird that it happened twice. But, yeah. So on kind of the flip side of the same charisma coin, there's the Schult, where he isn't as I hesitate to say not as loud, but he's more mathematically inclined.
His loudness is more focused.
Yes, there we go.
amplified.
But he's very gregarious. He goes out and talks to people all the time, and so he's kind of the guy that Roland's like, yeah. Okay. You stay over there. I like you on the other side of the room. And fine in small doses, but the thing that he's really good at is being the one that Roland can then send to go talk to people that he really doesn't want to talk to. And then, there's also the nice bit of being able to boost my abilities, or at least claiming to be able to.
Can't boost failure.
With Jasira is kind of a little bit of a kindred spirit of just being like quiet, closed off, doesn't pry into other people, doesn't like other people prying at her. And so I feel like the two of them can connect and speak everything that could possibly ever need to be said with a head nod. It just...
I can see that. Just contact, maybe some hand gestures if we had to, but
we could have an entire conversation about, do we need to kill this guy? Go back and forth a couple times, and then decide, yeah, we need to. You go first.
Yeah, we do.
With just head nods.
Your dagger, my dagger.
Oh, let's see. So Sindri is an interesting one. He reminds Roland of his little brother. And just kind of like memories of like always asking questions and trying to figure stuff out, but also the stick it to the man anarchist vibe as well. And so there's a fair amount of the interaction there that kind of comes from to a certain extent, treating Sindri as a child, but also Roland misses that sense of wonder and always asking questions and trying to dig into stuff.
How old is Sindri again? He's fairly young, right, Nicholas?
Yeah, he's like 20. But
okay, so it's like
for stone giants that live 900 years. I basically wrote him to be in his terrible twos for his race.
Oh shit!
You're pulling that off wonderfully.
To the extreme stress of Cade.
Yeah.
Cade, the initial impression is, finally someone who knows their way around a ship. So there's just kind of that respect, but also kind of a little bit of rivalry there going on of like, yes, this is the other person who knows their way around a ship, but I need to know my way around a ship better. Let's see, who am I missing?
It's Boko, right?
Boko.
Yeah.
That's it?
Then there's Gale.
Boko __.
Boko is weird. Like, it started off with like just that first connection of Boko walking in and opening a box, and something in that box was so bad that the entire organization that he worked for suddenly flips into a tizzy and calls the guards. Like, the organization designed around, take something apart, see how it works, maybe put it back together again, maybe put it back together a different way. And he opens a box and they call the guards. Okay. But yeah, he's curious, slightly appalled, and kind of walking the line between not knowing if he can trust Boko, but Boko hasn't done anything to earn mistrust, and wanting to find out more, and just kind of also connecting on the curiosity that and analytical mindset that Boko has of trying to dig in and figure out problems.
Awesome. And before we get into Roland's art, there was one other thing that I wanted to go back to with Boko's. Austin, what were the influences for Boko's design?
Ooh, that's a good question. Boko is this amalgamation of a lot of different things that I had designed that I just really enjoyed playing when I had done another campaign. Specifically the campaign where our group went to we revisited this eldritch hellscape that was like this snowy land in the mountains, and all my players had to stay at this hotel. And the patriarch of the hotel was just the most absolutely kind-hearted, would do anything for anybody individual. Well, his name was Mancubus, and he was just the biggest creep. It was literally just like everything about him was meant to put the players on edge and just like skeptically not trust him even though he hasn't done anything wrong. And he was
still not
so much
that
fun
our
to
characters
play.
are actually still our characters. Like he carved something out and replaced something. Everything started going downhill from there.
But he was so much fun to play just because it was the way he spoke. It was his mannerisms that were so creepy, but he was so kind-hearted. And even then, everybody was like, yeah, thanks for the tea. It's probably poisoned. That and just the voodoo aspect. I've always wanted to play a full artificer, so that's interesting. But that's kind of it. And I think hearing Roland talk about his first impression of Boko sort of makes me happy, because it's this Boko was created to give the players around him this sort of carnal sense of curiosity. And Boko has he's a huge support role. He is absolutely 100% a support character. And the only problem with that is if anybody wants his help, they have to like deal with the weird shit. That's the thing. And that's sort of what I've been trying to build, is this help, like bring people so they're just close enough to trust you or to be curious enough that they engage with it. But it's all beneficial. Boko's so kind-hearted, but
That's
it's just
the other
weird.
thing that this will probably be something that comes up eventually, is that one of the things that intrigues Roland about Boko is that Boko has found a way to turn missing something into an advantage. And Roland is missing an eye.
All right, needs a laser beam eyeball.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I say we work on putting that optic in your skull.
Bubba, you got to do the eye surgery on yourself though, because you have the experience.
Then, once we retire from adventuring, we could just open an optometry clinic. Just a lot of us.
Just make them go to sleep.
Sierra is going to be
Do
your
that the minute we get
lady.
ashore.
Sindri.
It'll be fun.
At that level though, it's just whack.
No,
Sindri, restrain this man.
don't like it. Just let it happen. It's okay.
All right, and what about for Roland? What were his influences, both as a character and as character design?
Okay, so the initial idea for Roland is I wanted to play a contradiction. I wanted to play a rogue that was lawful. I wanted to play a skill monkey that wasn't a bard. Right, I wanted to play a low charisma character that was still intimidating. I wanted to take everything that anyone had come to mind with different elements of the character, throw it out the window and do something else. So hence rogue, sneaky assassinate, sniper rifle. Sneaky, boom! You know? And
You can't hit anything.
Oof.
yeah. I still need to have a talk with the Schalt about what the hell he did to my rifle. But yeah, so that was the main principle behind it. I then started digging into where I wanted him to be from, what type of vibe I wanted to bring to the character. So the idea hit of just having kind of a philosophy of someone who really desperately wants to create things, but the things that he creates are just implements of destruction, and so he's trying to find a way to protect others' ability to create, because that's how the world moves forward. That's the only hope for sentient thought, is to continue to create. But there are elements that will try to destroy that, and the only way to fight fire is with fire sometimes. And so he will be that fire.
And I remember we talked about that a lot whenever you were making your character.
Yeah. And so they're kind of with that of having that, I want to create and learn and be good at all of that, but then also having that little hint of almost bloodlust that comes out at times kind of threw me on another contradiction, which it was playing a bookish Viking.
What about some of the aesthetic choices that you made for Roland?
So the aesthetic, I went for hours combing through the interwebs trying to find a gunslinger picture I was happy with.
Relatable.
And just couldn't. Everything was like, I have an element here that I like, but not one. But I don't like this bit of it. I like this. I don't like this. I like this. I don't like this. And just kind of finally settled on one with this long flowing coat. That was like, okay, yeah, the gunslinger jacket, I can rock that with a rifle and a wide brimmed hat. And so there's kind of a bit of a going forward. That's Gale's hat that I'm wearing. So I'm kind of happy with how that worked out, because that's a much better reason for him to have a wide brimmed hat than being a sailor. That would probably blow away on a ship. But yeah, no, I just kind of wanted the gunslinger aesthetic on a rogue.
Did you have any favorite parts of the art whenever it came out and you got to see it?
The scope, the optic.
Yeah.
The optic is
It looks
fantastic.
so cool.
Like that was spot on what I was imagining.
Awesome. What about you, Sindri?
Before,
yeah.
Before Gale comes back as a mutated bird creature and tries to take his fucking hat back.
No. He's taking a deal. That's what the storm was, and he's an end boss now.
Yep. He's gonna take your head.
I've been following. That's gonna be great.
You say that as if this DM hasn't done that before.
What are you guys' thoughts, or what are your
ultimate faith.
characters' thoughts about Gale's disappearance, I guess, or his potential death and all of that? How did that affect your characters?
I mean, that was really big with Clyde and Cade, really big for character development and them showing who they were to the party at that time. Kind of diametrically opposed, but Clyde not wanting to take that leadership and actual guidance position.
And I think
probably for the better.
I think there were one or two other people. I think I was one other person that was standing with you, where it was outside of the temple, and we checked everything, we looked, we couldn't find him. Do we go back in and check it again, or do we do this again?
We keep going after him.
Yeah, you, me, and then maybe one other person, correct me if I'm wrong, that were like, we need to go back and find him.
I think it was me and you were the only ones that were really hard for it.
Yeah, and that was the there were a couple moments in that kind of middle of the island arc where you guys had these standoffs where it was very strong opinions one way and another. Like the first one I think happened around the first altar that you guys kind of found, where Sindri wanted to go explore and Boko kind of wanted to go explore and Kay did not, and all the stuff that happened in and around that, and there were some heated moments that came out of that.
I distinctly remember Clyde walking up with his invisible lawn chair and just sitting down.
There was also one moment on the island where Cade had called a retreat, and she had taken that captain role. She had called for a retreat, but Roland had gone off by himself to go after Cesare, who had been taken by the wolves. And there was this opposition between Boko and Cade, because Cade was saying, no, we need to get the fuck out of here. And Boko was like, no, we can't lose another person. And so I think it was Boko and Jasira that went, no, we need to go find Roland because we're going to be down another person.
Yep.
Well, if Roland got Cesare.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of these standoffs where, again, it is kind of that Cade versus Boko, and there's been some people, like sometimes Roland gets involved, sometimes Clyde gets involved. But usually Jasira is off kind of to the side. How does Jasira see all these kind of conflicts, and how does it affect her perception of the characters?
Oh, she's not a fan. If everyone has like a point value in her eyes, any sort of like strong disagreements kind of lower them because she's not really a conflict person. However,
a stomping person.
She's just a beach stomping person, plain and simple. It's fine. They were bad. They were guards. They deserved it.
They had families.
And then they had lots of eyes, so they also deserved it. And we can go on and on about that later.
Hey, I can attest to people with more than my amount of eyes generally being assholes.
Yeah. So yeah. I don't really know a better way to put it other than it's basically like, oh no, mom and dad are fighting, but it's not my fault. I didn't cause this. I just need to stay out of it.
Does any of that
sit on the couch and eat my dinner?
I'm curious.
Yeah, give me some like popcorn.
Does any of her feelings towards conflict, does that come from like her past or her family and how that? I know we haven't gotten too much into Jasira's past yet. But does that impact how she feels about conflict at all?
I'm sure it has ties. So whenever we get more into that, we can unravel it all. It'll be a fun little story. I wouldn't be surprised though. Like I know with like the Gale issue, she would care because like he was helpful, but at the same time, she was a little cuckoo for coconuts because Big Scary Birdman decided to make her crazy and paranoid. So she was kind of out of commission for that.
How has that affect Jasira? Being, I guess, the one who was affected so strongly by this presence of this creature. What was that like for her?
Oh, it was bad. It was. Despite how many bad rolls I get for Roll20 because it loves me so much, I think it was
you down to average.
Right, that's what I mean. I would say it probably made her feel the most inferior. Next to her first real encounter with Cade, which I'll detail whenever we do the first impressions. But like it was probably her most inferior moment, and it was. Like, she just wanted to hit something real bad, and she just couldn't. For lack of a better term. Or rather, she shouldn't, because it could have been her allies. So glad that went better.
Yeah, that's a good point. The moment when she crushed the gem and got that necrotic energy and all the chaos was happening, there were about 3 or 4 turns where the exact right things had to happen to prevent her from just flat out killing either Tove or one of the party members in one hit. Like
I think Clyde was like the other person in particular. It was either going to be Tove or Clyde.
Yeah,
at one point.
It was wild as I was watching this and just like in horror being like all this stuff lined up, and if I roll the wrong thing at the wrong time, somebody's just gone. And it was in my own certain way as a DM, like there was that bit of like, ooh, if she killed Tove, like that would be juicy, but it's too early for that. Like that's some late game stuff to pull. And then to like just
that 20 sessions.
No, if you killed her off,
Don't
then
worry.
you have her come back as the mini boss.
I mean, I'm currently basically playing both of them because Tove is so similar to Jasira. Like, they're basically a pea in a pod, even though, like, at the core of, like, their strengths, their weaknesses, like, they're different, but they're still the same. It's interesting, to say the least.
yeah, and that's a
That
good
would've been
point.
rough.
That's a good point that we can kind of address here while we're on it. How have the party in general, the other characters, seen Tove and Jasira, specifically because they're kind of these two characters that are so tied, because everybody else is at least from the same plane, has some knowledge, but then you have Jasira who's just like completely out of left field, and at least has Tove there, but now there's these two people who are tied and who are very similar. How have you guys seen that? How has that played out?
I think it's super interesting because from like way back on the island, Boko immediately trusted Jasira for a reason that I'm still unsure of. And I will say it started with when Jasira, I think she had fallen unconscious for some reason, and Boko had a healing spell. And he offered it, but again, Jasira was unconscious and Tove said no. And so out of respect for Tove as well, he said, okay, I will not touch. I won't do anything. And then when there was that standoff out front of the temple between where Clyde and Boko were tempted to go back in, Boko is absolutely not afraid of death, but Cade said something that was super convincing, bringing Jasira up into it and saying, you know, we need to find help for Jasira, because if we go back in there and people start dying, Jasira's toast. And I feel like if it were anybody else, maybe bar like Roland on the right day at that point in time, Boko would have been like, yeah, fuck him.
Proud voodoo noises.
Yes.
Roland on the right day.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Cade did have
Which
a
day
thought,
is
or
that?
Colleen had a thought that she shared on Cade's thoughts on the situation, and hers were, you aren't my family, so I don't need to save Gale when it will kill me. And I think that's been something that we've been able to see through Cade, is that she has this like strong sense of familiarity and family ties, but we haven't gotten really to see where that comes from yet. And so I'm hoping that we get to explore that more.
There's a ruthlessness, I think, within Cade that
There's a little bit of coldness that she can calculate about what's a good
But it's-
decision to make then.
It's interesting, is what it is. It's very interesting because you wouldn't expect that from like your initial interactions with her.
But she turns out to be a person who's very comfortable with the arithmetic of war.
Yes,
Yep.
Yeah.
Very
that's a good
succinctly
quote.
put.
Yeah.
Very succinctly put.
All right, we'll jump back over to first impressions, and I want to hear from Sindri if Nicholas is still on. What were Sindri's first impressions of everybody? We can start off
Definitely-
with Cade, since that's the one that they kind of met before all this. They were one of the few that carried in a sort of relation.
So Cade was the first person he met on the surface that wasn't like within his little village or associated with his little village. And she saved him from the water, which is horrible. I'm not sure how she convinced Sindri to get on a boat with her and go across the ocean, but apparently that happened.
Did Sindri know what a boat was before the first one?
No, he did not. So that might have been part
By
of it.
the water starts floating. Hey!
Like, this isn't where I wanted to go. Not a fan that we are still on the water, but since Cade does have that kind of like leadership persona going on, and Sindri is still, though he's like in his 20s, for his race he is still very much a child. even though he doesn't like leadership and wants to be free, he's still kind of like a stern talking to a child, they'll generally listen to you kind of mentality. Which he's struggled a bit with when people, like when we wanted to go look for people that have been captured by the monsters and stuff, and Sindri's like, yeah, and then Cade's like, no. And Sindri really struggles with like not really understanding death or his own mortality, while also like still kind of innately being like, I should listen to adults.
What about your thoughts on meeting the rest of the party upon reaching the island?
Definitely a big fan of all the various crafters, as everyone has some style of crafting Sindri has never seen before. Has done a lot of background conversations about Steam.
That's a very good point, though. Everyone but maybe Cade really does have some sort of crafting, because like even Jasira has a jeweler's kit and she does jewelry creation, and Clyde doesn't exactly have direct tools, but I mean with the kind of tinkering that he's done with brewing and cooking, like he's got his own twist on that. And so it's been very cool to see how everyone has kind of embraced, almost accidentally, the really kind of theme and the new age of this kind of world building that we're entering, and what I wanted to explore with this campaign, because this is really kind of the golden industrial age within the world. And so it's really cool to see everyone has kind of a piece of that with their characters.
And Sindri's goal to go to the surface was really around like, I'd like to go and find something new to make, or inspiration, and kind of like that offer. And this party very much has those people with all these different styles of crafting and biological creating things using steam, guns, which Sindri has never seen before. It's all very, very interesting. Seeing a portal into another plane was very exciting for Sindri. So far he's definitely happy with his goal to go on an adventure, and has definitely not been disappointed with this group.
Sindri kind of started out with this like motherly and child relationship with Cade, almost in a way, or almost like an older sibling might be a bit closer. And we've seen that kind of waver a little bit as he wants to make decisions that she kind of very much has a different approach on. Has that relationship between them been drifting at all, or is there anyone that Sindri is feeling a kind of an equivalent kinship? Maybe not a stronger kinship, but something that is equivalent to how close he feels to Cade?
He's definitely warming up to Boko quite a bit, since Boko is encouraging his less than good ideas sometimes, and he enjoys having basically a quote unquote like a fellow rebel.
Yep. I'm the cool uncle.
Yes. Clyde is not fully aware, but he has a bit of a rivalry with Clyde, only because he's the only one Sindri is only just a bit shorter than. So
Oh, it's gonna be so good when you get to that rune ignite ability.
Yeah, level 10. Sindri's is very much gonna be standing a little bit taller, but metaphorically much, much taller.
I'd like to think it's canon that every time Sindri like casts enlarge on himself, he looks over at Clyde.
Directly, and Clyde is like, yo.
But Sindri is very much like always been the shortest one, because he has a small tribe and he's the youngest, and like the next youngest person is like 6 feet taller than him. So he's always been the short one, which is why whenever he's in his large form, I constantly ask, am I bigger than this other person? Because it is very important to Sindri.
David, that's hilarious. I wish everyone could see, but he just posted his character physical description, and under eyes it has 1.
Great.
Kills me.
Beautiful.
Okay, as far as Sindri's art, where did that kind of inspiration for Sindri come from? Because you drew Sindri the first time, and that's where his design pretty much all came from. Like Jeff did a great job of capturing the essence, I think, of that drawing.
And no, the only difference between the drawing that's posted and the drawing I did is it's a little crisper. But it looks pretty much the same, except my character had a little bit of a blue silver hair in my drawing, and it kind of just turned to silver in the final one. But besides that, they look pretty much exactly the same.
Where'd the influences for his character come from? Did you have any, I guess?
I wanted to build like a crafter fighter, and mostly reading through like the new book about like the Genazis. I always like Genazis. I've played Genazis a number of times. I wanted to do an Earth Genazi, and so kind of just going off what would be a really cool, like very much going with made of stone kind of a look. But I don't know. I don't think I really had much inspiration between like wanting to be like that pure idea of like wonder in the world is kind of what Sindri's personality is.
Did you have any favorite parts of how the design came out?
I don't know, because I did draw it myself.
That's fair.
Everything.
Everything is perfect.
Yes, it was all beautiful. Excellently done. Actually, have I posted the drawing I did?
If you post, I hope it's just like 3 squiggles and 2 eyes.
No, Nick actually did a great job. I've got it shown on screen. I already just showed it on stream. But
it was over in stream.
I'll pull it back up here for a second. So this is the one that Nicholas did. And it came out great. I was super, super impressed with it. And the only reason that we ended up doing the same one for having Jeff redo it is just to keep the same style across the board for all the characters.
All of them.
Yeah, it came out really cool, and I was really excited about it when Nicholas sent it over to me. All right, we'll keep moving over. Jasira. Where did Jasira's character design come from? Did she have any influences either for her character or for her appearance?
Oh, yes. So anyone that has played with me knows I kind of have an affinity for the kind of
Antelopes?
dark, unapproachable, kind of spooky exterior with like a soft, gooey middle. That's kind of my preferred person. As Sam laughed at me. And so one of those perfect ones, I was just trying to think of like pop culture. My first thought was Raven from Teen Titans. And
Yes, girl.
yeah, love her so much. So I was like, you know what? Let's get someone that's kind of like a bad bitch like that. Maybe a little bit nicer to people. But just because she's not really from here, I'm trying very hard to play a true neutral, which is kind of difficult. So hopefully I'm doing that okay. But
Just do what
we'll see. Basically. Yeah. So like that was kind of the core part there. And then I already had... So what happened was I had this big plot, and I had a dream, and I was like, Austin, this is my next character. Like, next character for your campaign. He was like, okay, tell me about it. And so then that, plus just thinking of the Raven aesthetic, I was like, oh, this is perfect. And so then, of course, I had to give her the Raven plague mask as soon as I found out that, like, the Way of Mercy monks have masks. I just kind of kept going, and that's where we got Jasira. And I will say my favorite part on her drawing was just the splash of purple on her dress, because originally I was like, nope, she's a goth bitch. She wears black.
Yes.
Like, all black. And that purple was just so good.
Yeah, so I whenever Jeff sent me in the first run of drafts, there were a few kind of changes that I made, and one of them that we were going back and forth with is I was like, I kind of want to see just a bit of splash of color on the dress. And he sent me back like 3 of them, and they were all super, super cool. And he had them in 2 different ways. One was like a color on top, one was the color on bottom, and it was like gold, purple, and like green or something, I think, or silver. And we ended up going with the purple one, and I think it came out so cool. I love the transition that happened on the dress, and I think it just captures that bit of, I don't know if we'll ever get to explore Mabar, or if we do it might not be till way down the road or potentially in other campaigns, but Mabar
sounds pretty deadly, TBH. I don't know if people want to go there.
And Mabar is very much about just a bit of color in the darkness, and whenever you see color in the darkness, it's always bad. Like, that is the warning of danger. Like, you want to stay in the darkness, you don't want to go to the light.
It's always an anglerfish is what you're telling me.
Yeah,
it's never just a friendly little light.
Like, that is literally what the core design principle I had for Mabar when putting things together is that anglerfish mentality. And so to have that little bit of color on her dress, I think it just captures that mentality so perfectly.
It also kind of is that a good like parallel too, because like, ooh, a splash of color means it's bad. It's like, ooh, she's a bad bitch. Don't mess with her. Coming at ya.
What were her impressions of the other characters whenever she first met them upon reaching the island?
Okay, so I'm gonna start with Roland because that was really her first interaction, and
Walking out butt-ass naked.
I mean, yeah, like just fucking naked, and she said like shit in Elvish, and he was like, yeah, and she's like, respect. It was just like it was like a 2-word thing. It was just like, okay, nope. I see
just
you.
Just a head nod. No, oh my gosh, just both of us there, the hands on our hips going, shit.
Where's my stuff? Like, just, it was so good. And I mean, the more she's kind of talked to Roland, she kind of still gets that, like, okay, he's reliable. And she appreciates the kind of weird, I guess, because that's like another thing for her. Like, she loves like the dark, the spooky, the weird, the odd, like,
oh, we're gonna get
eccentric. We got a lot of fucking weirdos in this group, so that's why I'm like, I know she's gonna love everybody. It's just gonna take some time to build up to that for sure. But she has a pretty good respect for Roland, especially that he can hit people with blunt objects. Because that's what he's good at.
And that is right.
As long as he's next to him.
Yeah. You know. Those kind.
He can kill anything.
Mostly
and then, of
Boko.
course,
I think Boko is the only person I've hit with my rifle, and it was with the back end of it.
I just want to say, I've been hit by almost every single character, I think, barring Jasira.
Yeah, not Jasira, though. Not Voodoo Buddy. We're good.
But Boko hasn't blamed anybody yet. It's more of just like a inconvenience.
You're like,
he just honestly, at this point, he just thinks it's part of the like ritual of the surface world is
initiation.
People just slap each other sometimes.
Wow.
Let's be friends, pal.
And then Sindri straight up golfed Boko's ass.
Yeah.
When they were fighting the bear.
You got in the way.
That was true. And then the DM went, so you can either miss this attack or hit Boko. And you went, let's do it. I was like, yeah, right answer.
But yeah,
waste my
I would say of the group, though, she digs Roland a lot. And especially on the ship, he's been very helpful. Like, she isn't used to water, especially not this much water. And so he was very helpful, kind of just kind of guiding her along. It's been great. And then I'm going to jump to Cade, which naturally Cade was the most outspoken, which, cool. She's definitely more of a follower. That's fine. She'll follow directions. But the part I wanted to highlight was whenever they searched for herbs, that was a big thing for her. Like, back in Mabar, like, she was the herbalist. She was the gardener. Like, not only did she harvest the shadows, but, like, she did herbs. Like, that was just kind of her thing. Like, that and crafting jewels on DIY was just, like, for fun. But, like, that was her thing. And realizing that she couldn't find any plants she recognized, let alone that were edible. That made her feel so inferior. And that's not great, just because, like, it kind of just drug her back to home, which was a very ironic twist. Because if she was at home, she'd be killing it, but she always tells herself, like, I'm not supposed to be here. And, like, I'm pretty sure she told Cade once, like, I'm not supposed to be here. And it's not in death, it's just in skill. She's not supposed to be there. So she just feels very inferior to Cade. And so while she doesn't appreciate all the bossiness, she will keep her head down, she'll follow the group, and she knows with Cade, shit'll get done. So she really appreciates that aspect. As for, let me see, I have to look at the people in this call. We'll do Sindri. So a fun fact is, in terms of elves, she's basically 20. She's a baby. She's only 100 years old.
All these fucking kids.
Yeah, it's Clyde and the kids.
Yeah!
No, hey, I'm old.
Damn it is Grandpa Clyde.
I mean,
But do you, it's just hilarious because she has such an adult mindset. Like, she's calm, mature, reserved. She's over here like, that kid's off his rocker.
well, and I think that that's such a cool aspect, is that we do have so many people who are relatively around the same level or of age, even though with the different races it comes out to a different physical number, but have very distinct differences in how mature they are and what they're mature in because of how they were raised. And that's going to be super interesting to explore as we get more into people's backstories, is understanding that, because I as the DM get to see that and get transparency. I'm like, ooh, that's why that happened, but you guys get to discover it later.
I think Cade is like the same age as Sindri.
Yeah, she is.
Well, yeah, and that's what I think is also
she
then
mentioned
interesting. Like, Jasira is just like somewhere between the two, and she's like, this is fucking weird.
20, 20, 20, 20, 29, 200.
1, 2, skip a few. 200.
199.
Let's see. And I those. Ooh, Boko. Okay.
Oh, jeez.
So, I can't think that there would be possibly anybody in Mabar that looks quite like Boko. Granted, nobody looked like anybody except for Tove and the other, like, elves. So,
also an interesting point that I don't know if we ever addressed, and probably is probably missed in subtlety, just because everything is foreign to Jasira. But this is probably the first, like, dark complexioned individual that Jasira has ever seen.
I can dig that, yeah. And plus it's like barky, and so she's like, well, that's kind of strange, and really everything about Boko is strange. But like, as soon as he was like, I got something that can help you, like, come meet me, and then he starts doing his like little voodoo ritual, and she was like, ah, shit, this guy's weird, I love this. Like,
Don't
I was just like,
worry.
oh,
His bark is worse than his bite.
oh, there we go. Yeah, I don't know, it was just like, there was like weird to like, okay, you're just different, but then it became weird, like, ah, shit, I can, like, we're buddies, I can work with this. And so, like, just that spirituality aspect, I think she, like, really appreciated.
Jasira has been the only one to participate in one of Boko's rituals. The only one to see this happen.
Gale had as well.
Yeah,
He did.
Surgery. It's one of the reasons their surgery was so
That's right.
successful.
He smoked sky hentai and became a brain doctor.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow,
That's
that
why
was
it was
a
good.
sentence.
But outside of Gale, Jasira is the only other one who's experienced that. And with her backstory, how has, you mentioned them now being kind of like buddies with having that? Is that part of what played into it? Is seeing the aspect that he has with spirits and spirituality?
I feel like that cemented it. I mean, he's proven himself to be very good at utility. Like, he's always got, like, oh, I got something for that. And he has all these, like, just unique, like, actions. Like, I'm going to shoot this bobber down there. That seemed to fucking work. She's like, I'm gonna try that. And then
Boko is the Swiss artificer.
I don't know. She just has a lot of bad respect for him. So I think that voodoo just kind of like, if there was going to be like a kinship, like that's just kind of like triggered. So it's more of like that loving friend affection already. Like, obviously not too close. Like, I just met you like a couple weeks ago, buddy, at best.
I'm interested to see like how their relationship progresses, especially from like that like knowing look, the inspiration transfer that happened on the ship, and now this like realization that we deal in like very similar energies and things like that, like with the soul harvesting, which is gonna be super interesting.
Yeah,
DM's in trouble with that one.
Well, and the
He's
best part
writing
is like, Jasira doesn't know how this works. Like, she's just like, hey, this is like a power of my people. Like, I'm used to this. And so while she knows what enables her, that's like the trade secrets. She's trying to like help while not just cat's out of the bag, you know?
Yeah, and a question for the rest of the party is, now that you guys have seen Jasira do this a number of times where she's capturing this kind of essence from creatures that she has killed, what has been your character's reactions to that and thoughts on that?
Weirds Clyde out like nothing else.
That's fair.
It really does. And my kind of thought of is kind of what he did in what is it, the Mournlands? All sorts of strange and different haunts there. Just playing with spirits don't sit right with Clyde.
I think it's super interesting. You guys already know what Boko thinks about it, but it's almost like I attribute it to like Boku's been working with stone tools this entire time, but literally just watches Jasira slam two rocks together and make fire. And Boku's just like
just a whole new enlightenment.
Yes.
So
oh man!
we know
Hold on. I think I also need to cover Clyde
I was
real
about
quick.
to get that. Go for it.
Yeah, just to not entirely miss it. And then Clyde is similar to Sindri, as in y'all small and loud, but the asterisk here is, while she doesn't always understands the things that come out of Clyde's mouth, because he has like that very like mountain man kind of vernacular that she's trying really hard to understand. She sees the wisdom behind the words, I guess, even if she doesn't understand.
Like, what he's saying has got to make sense to him, but I can't fucking parse it.
Yeah.
She leans over to Tove. It's like he's trying to communicate with me or something.
Like, what does that mean?
It's like, I don't know if anyone else has experienced this, but when you have like a grandparent who like grew up in another country and has all these cultural differences or like language differences, and trying to understand that, being like, there's some wisdom from many years, but it is not getting to me.
Yeah, it's just like, there's a issue here, broken telepathy, I'll figure it out. I'm sure they'll like figure out their own little love relationship somehow, some way, a friendship, but for now it might just be through booze. Which Jasira's trying. So really, y'all saw her first shot. Congratulations.
Time for 6 to 10 more.
There we go.
I'm excited for that. All right, we'll go over to Clyde then. Clyde, what were your impressions of the party?
Well, I'll start with Boko.
Jeez.
With waking up on the island and seeing how the groups kind of formed, and Boko kind of being by himself, but not being this really seeming powerful social character. He was a little worried about Boko, but then later watching Boko charge into battle and risk life and limb for the other party members, it really spoke to Clyde, because it's something Clyde, if you've noticed, Clyde does not want to get in that melee fight. He doesn't quite want to do that. So watching Boko charge in, and then afterwards, the empathy he was showing to wanting to go get Gale and standing with him really showed another aspect of his character to Clyde that Clyde could really respect with him. And now that Clyde is convinced that Boko got laid on the ship for his knife.
Can't wait to get into
I
that
was
one.
like, oh, this guy likes booze and women too. Cool.
Likes drinking and fucking. Man, Boko's strange, but he's all right.
Oh shit.
Gosh. Going to Cade. Clyde immediately picked out as a commander type. She immediately started forming a group of capable individuals that followed her. And Clyde was more or less willing to do that. And because Clyde does not want to be in a ordering other people role. But he's going to really butt heads and has with Cade being a little more clinical, and we have to just leave them. We can't risk everyone. But it's the right decision, and in the past, Clyde in that situation has made the wrong decision. And has seen what's come of it. He's a little worried Cade might drop him if something happens. Yeah. Just a little bit.
Just
A little bit. But he's seen that Cade's very capable of forming her own aura of influence in a situation. Going down to Jasira. Jasira still weirds Clyde out, and he's tried a couple times to get in there, but it's meta. It's the souls thing, because he's seen that a few times, but it's just a little bit off-putting that he just hasn't quite been able to pierce the veil of Jasira yet. But starting and literally seeing Jasira jump into the combat and really want to get in there and fight for the party, he's starting to see it, but they just haven't interacted too much besides Clyde being like, her and Boko are doing some weird fucking shit over there.
Yeah, you'd have to decide to go talk to the weird girl that's just mumbling to the tree.
The still's not packing enough. He doesn't have enough alcohol to go talk to you yet.
Well, that's okay. If you give her alcohol, she might talk to you. Who knows?
B and Clyde are brewing up some good shit right now.
Yeah,
Some natural 20s that went into that shit.
Yeah.
yeah, but Tiff is first in line for it, right?
First in line.
Tiff the Tooth Fairy?
Yeah, the
Tip
tooth
the
fairy.
Tooth Fairy.
Specifically in line ahead of Iz.
It's specifically, is going to come, and I'm like, sorry, guys.
VIP customers first.
Yeah, and then going to Roland. Roland,
Short and
Clyde
loud
sees-
versus tall and quiet.
Well, when Clyde looks at Roland, he sees someone who should be capable and seems like they would be capable. But he's a little worried that maybe he's not pushing towards his strengths with the gun, so he's not quite sure what's going on there. But
Clyde has no problem standing in front of Roland when he shoots. You're not gonna hit me anyway!
No. That's a dangerous spot to be in. The safest spot to
down.
be is if I'm aiming at you. Otherwise, I might, overcompensate for the recoil and then drop the muzzle first before I fire.
No, you're not gonna shoot Clyde, you're just gonna bash the barrel on his head.
Or, yeah, bop somebody with the butt of your gun.
It's got a lot of kick.
Oh
but-
gosh.
Clyde's really pegged Roland for a capable individual, but he's really worried that Roland keeps wanting to go off by himself. And that's why, especially before, go talking to the captain, maybe not just Roland, because you never know. Sometimes those capable individuals don't always come back from their one-man endeavors.
Maybe we don't let the guy with 6 charisma go talk to the captain alone.
Exactly. We'll just just maybe not.
Hedge our bets a little bit.
appreciate it.
What about his thoughts
It's going
on
to be a
Sindri?
very matter of fact.
Last day.
Test passed, yes. Good. After we pass test, we get stuff back, yes? Another test. Okay, what is test?
Okay, can't kill them. I gotta make sure the party members don't kill anyone.
Yep.
I'm worried about more than half of them.
That's the other thing that I'm trying to pull off with Roland is like low charisma but high intelligence. So the thing about high intelligence is you can intellectually recognize when something is not the most advantageous thing to say in a social situation.
Mhm.
And so there are things that will slip out and just jabs that he'll make and then go, oh, that probably didn't make any friends. Oh, well. But if he's thinking about it in advance, he can plan out a conversation to make sure he doesn't say shit.
What's Roland's charisma?
6. -2.
Boko is more charismatic than Roland is?
Yes.
See,
That's why you got along together.
we'll get into this actually a little bit in the game because I've got some things that are going to come into this, but I always interpreted charisma as presence. And I think the whole point of Roland is to have the opposite of presence, where he can blend into things and where he fades in and where he's not seen, where he's overlooked. And despite the very physical deformities that he carries, I think that there is a lot that he goes into, whether it's from his wardrobe to his mannerisms to how he operates, that is just trying to counteract that and pull people's eyes away from him. And so I think he has that lack of presence on purpose, almost, where he's trying to cultivate that.
Yep. So he'll walk into a room and no one will notice, and then someone will drop dead and no one will notice, and then he'll walk out of the room and then they'll notice the body.
All right, well, Sindri, since Sindri kind of
for Sindri
pegged Clyde as the next shortest and came, and just how wild Sindri looked with his giant maul, him being the tiny titan that he is.
The tiny titan.
Yes.
But his personality and his vigor and his constant curiosity to go forward, Clyde's realized he can't stop that, so he's only going to encourage it. Safely, more or less. He's got to learn. But he's always been watching Sindri so willingly rush head first and just bull force a problem. And no, I'm going to solve it right now. I'm taking this bowl of fire with me. It's just something that Clyde sees. Just he has a feeling that Sindri is going to be worthy of songs being written about him. Just either that or he's going to die very young.
Still worthy of a song.
Sindri, it's not possible. Why not?
Exactly.
Well, can't argue with that. Have at it.
Fuck, you got me. Okay, go for it.
Unbeatable logic.
Well, that just means that I'm going to do it first.
And the Schult Clyde sees as the salesman who you can't quite trust because he's selling his thing a little too hard. And Clyde's seen it succeed a couple times, but he's still incredibly wary of this steam here that the Schult is selling.
And I don't
Good
think,
to giving facials.
Bri, I don't think you covered the Schult either. Did Jasira have a first?
I did it. That's
Reaction
what I
of
commented.
the
I was
shot.
like, oh shit, I forgot I didn't cover the shot.
But
sorry.
Schult seems such enigmatic and so boisterous when he's with steam that you like even just being like, I don't know, bud, but you know what? Sure,
But steam.
shoot your shot. I'll listen. Till this beer's done. You got me.
I mean, it was basically a similar thing up until the steam facials for Jasira. She was like, okay. He was, there, and he was pretty talkative, but not unbearably so. She was kind of like, okay, he's fine. Like, by that point, he was just like an acquaintance. And then he hit her, and then she's like, well, I guess he was just trying to do the right thing, but ow. And then he did it again, and it's just like, okay, this shit's personal. So I'm just waiting for one of those like kind of close calls where it's like, you can not hit him, and I'll be like, no, I'm gonna hit him, just one more time. Revenge.
Just one time.
I do want to do
toss off the ship one time.
a quick
Just
throwback to Thashalt's first appearance, where with Boko and Roland in the city. But he rushes out and he goes, "I'll save you. Watch this."
Well,
and nothing happens.
he also tried really hard to save Gale, which was really nice.
Yeah.
I love the Schultz just experimental. This is my first try being a superhero mentality. It is just like so. It reminds me of the old Tobey Maguire Spider-Man in the best way possible.
There's
The proper
earnest.
Spider-Man.
I know what this is. Can you smell it? An opportunity for testing.
I like the Schalt because he does everything at like 110% and volume 11.
It's all in all the time. All right. What about Clyde's design? Where did his aesthetic come from?
Well, I really wanted to play the bard who's sort of been around the block and not necessarily gotten away unscathed. He's been kicked around a few times, lost everything, and come back. But he's got the few things on him that he really cares about. And you can see it in the back just a little bit. The still.
Yep.
Which is, the moonshine's a big part of Clyde, mostly because I thought moonshine being made of moonlight would be funny.
That's great.
And then I saw, oh, there's like 12 moons in Oberon. That's way better.
Yep.
And that's sort of where it was like, oh yeah, no, this sort of cult of the moon, believing that the moon cycles are actually causing these changes and effects. Which you guys were asking the question.
Yeah.
Does he is it really a thing, or is he just making up? He believes it, especially more now. It could be complete just nonsense, and that's just what happens to your eyes when you drink, distilled moonlight.
All right. Well, just the follow-on question of that then is, will you give us a heads up before you take that level in Warlock?
No.
That's correct answer.
I am
You'll
so
find out when
sad
it's
that we
appropriate.
don't have warlocks yet. I love doing warlocks.
It's a possibility, especially
I
since I fell
learned
into
my
the moon skit.
lesson.
Wait,
I learned my lesson.
No.
Did you hear
can
the
sell
DM say yes?
He's just yeah.
Not gonna be here.
Plans for somebody.
Not gonna be here.
See,
I learned my lesson.
we have no clerics and we have no warlocks, and those are
we just have all
honestly
four.
some of my favorite
Great.
things to do because they have very direct interactions. But the best part is that this is all about like the Industrial Revolution-esque aspects of this world, and so to cut out those old ties of the old magics, I think is so perfect for this, and I can't wait to see that dichotomy that is going to develop as we get further into this game.
Excuse
It's gonna be
you.
great.
I'm a cleric.
You're not. You're
You're
not.
a dip.
You have. You're a dip. It doesn't count.
You
Start
paid
leaning into it
your
more.
coins to the local
May the
church.
blessing of
and they went-
Onatar be upon you.
Well, and that is something that is going to be interesting though. Is there's definitely things that I've thought about as far as Roland's interactions with Onatar and with that faith and how to pull it out more. Because I think that Roland hasn't even explored that fully yet, because I think it's relatively new and fresh. And so once we get into a different section of the campaign, there'll be more time to flesh that one out. And so there is, but at the same time, I don't think that is the core of where Roland's character comes from.
Yeah.
It's more of kind
It's,
of a flavor on top.
It was an opportunity that he pursued, and I think that exploring the impacts of that and exploring the conflict between that faith and the faith that he was raised with will be quite interesting.
Yeah, and I'm very excited to get to that, because the point that you just made is exactly what I want to kind of pull on later in the story.
Yeah.
Though before we move on to other topics, I do really want to quickly address on Kate, because we do have Colleen in the chat and she's able to share a few things. And I thought the picture that Colleen sent me, and I'll show it here in a bit as well, I thought was so incredible. And what Jeff was able to come up with, the single favorite thing that I have about this image is the freaking hair. The hair is just so flawless in the way that it looks, and I absolutely love it. And I don't know if we won't be able to see it very well on the stream, Cam, because it's too low, but the golden edge of her slippers as well, or her slippers, her sandals, is just super cool. But I love Cade's aesthetic. I love her design. I think it's so cool. And the picture that Colleen sent me as the original kind of motivation for the character is also just absolutely incredible and so cool. I just love all of Cade's aesthetic and the whole pirate vibe that she has, and it's been very cool. She sent over a little blurb about the motivation. I thought it was very interesting, but basically that she had picked a star druid and kind of worked her way back, figuring out why she would be involved with the stars and kind of determining that she could navigate by them and what kind of sailors were present in the world and in Eberron, and then kind of landing on the Lazar principalities and the pirates in there, being super excited to explore that, and kind of twisting on the vibes from the last character that she had played, which was the kind soldier gentleman type that was Kol'jin, and now into this much more fluid character, both literally and metaphorically in Cade. And that's one
just
of the
moving
things,
completely away from being the face of the party and the main heels.
But I think that's one of the things that I really was excited to jump on early in this campaign, and why we're not having a session tonight is because I really wanted to have Cade present for the Traglorn pieces, because some of these things that are going to happen in this next session that we'll have, so not next week but the week after, we'll have some of the games that I have prepared, and they're all sorts of drinking games and party games, and I think that's where really Cade will have some ability to shine, when she's with the pirates that she's familiar with in a place that she's familiar with, and has the ability to kind of flex those muscles and explore that character not as the face of the party in this survival mode that she's had to act in. And I think it'll give us a really interesting peek into another side of the character that we haven't gotten to see yet. But I'm excited for that. So that's kind of behind the screen of why I didn't want to go ahead without Cade tonight, especially. And then she sent over some first impressions. So on Sindri, she said, "Oh, he is so innocent. Maybe I shouldn't let the world eat him alive." Also a bit of curiosity, meeting someone else touched by the elements. If you didn't know, Cade is a water genasi and Sindri is the earth genasi. So having two that are corally tied to those elements. As far as Clyde, she said that she likes him, got a good sense of humor, but perhaps a bit too idealistic, which I'm so excited to explore Clyde's idealistic aspects. And there's some aspects of that in his backstory that I think we'll get a chance to flesh out a bit more, that I'm super pumped for. On Roland, she said, "This is someone I can work with. He's got his head screwed on straight," which I think is very much the same opinion that Roland had of her. They've been able to very quickly identify each other as kind of working together. And I know how you think. I know how you work. We can figure something out. As far as Jasira, she said she's got an air of mystery. Looks like she won't get herself killed. Boko intrigued at how he uses nature. Frustration is he's the type of person that will lead people to their death to satisfy his own needs and curiosity. And I think that is such an interesting take on Boko.
And how Boku's going to take it when he leads someone to their death.
And that's a real possibility, and something that I don't want to talk about too much because I want that to be raw if we ever get to it. But I think that is such an interesting take, and I was super excited that she pulled that part out. And then as far as the Schultz, she said too much, just too much, but not a bad impression. But that she loved all the characters. You just got to
make sure he's pointed away from you when he's outputting.
He's going to be like our little soldier. You just wind him up, turn him away from you, and just let him go.
90 degrees. Sometimes the steam backfires.
Oh, gosh.
Man. I like that Cade and Roland, the water genasi that collects stars and turns into constellations, and the slinky, long rifled, half burned face looked at each other and went, We're the normal ones.
Yeah.
I mean, they're definitely not wrong, but
We have a low bar.
oh, my cheeks hurt.
Okay, I mean, what are the other ones? Tiny Titan Rock,
A literal
Masked
small rock
Soul
who thinks he's
Stealer.
a giant.
Moon controls eyes, and Boko. And Steam salesman. Steam sales. The Steam Christmas sale.
For the door steam salesman.
We have Billy Mays, but like with steam.
Oh wait, there's more.
Oh jeez. That's so awesome. Well, GM, what about your first impression of how the characters met and all came together?
I have been so excited with this group of characters. I say it every week, but this campaign is all about exploration and discovery, and is very much the complete opposite of the first campaign that we ran in Corvair and in Eberron, which was all very much the classic fantasy hero's journey. This one is expanding upon the world and is taking what we had kind of laid down as the foundation and being like, okay, well, where we know the board that we're playing on. Now let's see where the edges are. Let's go ahead and flesh out the weird. Let's go ahead and flesh out the advancing aspects of technology and of magic. And where are the things that we haven't touched on? Where are the things that we haven't discovered yet? And so to have so many characters that represent that so fully is absolutely wonderful. And I think you guys have captured what I was hoping this would be in so many different ways that we can't even get into yet. But I've been super happy with how the characters went. I knew very early on in development of this campaign, and when I was writing it, it was right around the time that the first trailer for Baldur's Gate dropped, and I knew immediately that that's how I wanted to start the campaign. And so as each of the characters came in and I started to write in where they would be whenever this happened and how they would be kind of affected by it, it just worked really smoothly. It came out working exactly how I wanted, and all these characters, the way that they met, their interactions with each other felt so real and alive, and just immediately got everyone into the persona and the mindset of their characters that I thought was really, really cool and really interesting. And we've seen, because of the situation of the island, we've seen a lot of people pulling out maybe not the primary aspect of their character to the forefront. And so I think, again, like Cade and Traglorn, and I think others that we're going to get to along the way, I think you're going to see that these characters are not necessarily what they've been presenting themselves as up until this point. There's more to them and other aspects that they kind of haven't completely shown yet, and that might be the prime aspects of them. And so to see kind of a secondary or even lower level of a character come to the front right away, I think is exactly what I was looking for in the first arc. And exactly what I was trying to pull out of these characters in the first arc is that conflict, is that tension, is that when we first meet people, we don't always get that right first impression. And so it's been interesting to see those first impressions of each of these characters, and to maybe come back later down the line and see how those have changed, and see, okay, well, maybe how I felt about this character wasn't true because it was just the situation that was going on and what we've experienced so far. And so I'll be very excited to see that development as it goes.
I'm also excited to see how many of us have crafted a first impression to be projected that is not the best first impression of our character.
Yeah. And you guys are skilled enough role players that you can do that kind of crazy stuff. It's great. All right, I'll pull into some of these questions now as we're getting here. We've been moving through at a good clip. But Bree had a question for Boko and Austin that she was personally curious about the Aegon Boko flirt fest. Would you say that he is genuinely interested in Aegon for his knife, or is it just that important to him that he's feigning being DTF? Or does he even know that he is feigning, or that he is presenting that?
That's the super interesting part about Boko, is, again, up until he was on the island, like, the only interactions he's had outside of where he's from have been people taking his stuff or like trying to shake him down because he's new, or they've all just been negative. So he's extraordinarily analytical, and he's been trying aspects that he's seen from other people, between being like vulgar and being like teasy and being completely inept at everything, which I think is so much fun. It's so much fun. But in character, Boko has no intentions of sleeping or being active with anybody, and has had no opinion about the naked people that he saw, and it's just as a medic and a surgeon, he's comfortable with the human body, and it's just normal. And so he walked in and he saw everybody naked, and he was like, "Where the fuck's my knife?"
I was supposed to get my knife here, right?
So there we go.
Do not have my knife.
It looks dead at Aegon's junk, and he's like, "Where the fuck's my knife,
No.
bro?"
Which if Aegon just got up from...
Yes.
Sorry, I'll stop there.
It would have been so great if he had just the sheet.
That's the best part.
That's it.
But yes, Boko has been... Austin has been making it very awkward, but to Boko, he has no fucking idea.
Hey, at least you haven't had Iz try to wingman you yet.
Yes.
True.
Watching some NPCs try and interact with Boko is enjoyable.
I think he's opening up a lot to some of the party members, at least because they haven't really tried to take his stuff too much, which like seems to be like a surface person kind of thing, like the surface world. So he's opening up to them a little bit, but he's extraordinarily awkward around everybody else, and only just like really awkward around the party.
So I will. I know this gets thrown away around a lot, and I know that Bree kind of asked about it. So for those of you who have strong opinions about any NPC, whether it be Octavius or Iz or any of the others, what is it about those NPCs that give you those strong reactions?
I would die for Jizargo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, same.
Just on principle.
Yes.
No reason.
I've only had this puppy for a day and a half, but if anything happened to him, I would kill everyone in this room and then myself.
Yes.
Zargo is definitely one of those that I could, that as a DM, you like identify like, oh, those are the ones that I can go after to get the party's attention.
Yes.
Something happened to Jisargo. No, it didn't.
We will not let this stand.
I think one thing that you did was when we were in was it either in the ship or during the wreckage, but you were talking about these two dwarves that were together, and one of them had their prosthetic was destroyed, and they were like crying, and I was just like, oh, my fucking chest.
Well, and I don't know if anyone picked up on the dialogue that happened there or the situation in the ship, but that particular dwarf was crying, and like not just that his prosthetic was gone, but he's the only dwarf on the ship.
Oh shit.
I don't know if anybody caught that detail that was kind of dropped in there,
and
subtly.
That's Dun Diggin, right?
Yeah, Dun is on the ship, the other dwarf is not.
That's right. Jace said that one of the dwarves got killed.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, interesting.
So that's another thing that is kind of and it's been interesting to see, is because these are very much pirates and they have a mixed background. They're very much criminals, and there are aspects of that the party can certainly work with, but there are aspects of that are certainly dark and are meant to be kind of this gray line, and depending on which NPCs you interact with, you'll see different aspects of that, and have already seen different aspects of that. And so it's been interesting to see how the party reacts to certain things and how they drift to certain things, and have how other things have kind of fallen by the wayside.
Makes Clyde feel like he's back in his 80s.
But I know that David has strong feelings about both Octavius and Iz. Do you want to go into detail about those feelings, David, or expand on them at all?
Has Octavius been able to do anything? He's been in like one scene where it's like, yeah, he's an annoying noble. Gonna fucking crucify this noble and gag him for the rest of the campaign.
Octavius was just... He was made from the very beginning to be the annoying noble that never wants to get his hands dirty and was just... Everyone else is going to do his work for him. And so it was just... the automatic just...
I love how your camera just crashed when you did that.
What?
Your camera just went black. With
Oh, did it?
Yeah. You hit the desk and it went
Just
black.
the sound effects.
That's fantastic. Okay, I will reload the page. Oh, no, wait. No.
Yeah, it's
I'm back.
You're
Okay.
back.
It crashed perfectly for that. Perfectly for... Okay.
You've been canceled.
But just like, it's the... That's how it started. Then it became the meme to hate Octavius. Like, to be honest, when we went and got our shit back, Octavius was useful. Like, he did a couple of useful things that helped me get my shit back, so... He's not the worst person I've ever run into. Especially not after I met Iz.
And then you met Iz, so Octavius was
what
locked
is
down
it?
like 12 rungs in the annoying level.
But then also Iz gagged Octavius, so... they're about even.
You can't have two. Two's too many.
What is it about Iz that has brought that out? Is it a bit of prejudice from knowing Iz beforehand, or is it things that happen?
It is 100% all prejudice from knowing
Not
Iz
at all.
beforehand.
I mean, that was
That's it.
intentional when I
Feels it in
made the
his
character.
bones.
That is all it is. It's all having played with Iz in a previous campaign.
Do you know how
Knowing
hard
what
it
he's
is for me to not kick him in the balls right now? Do you know how hard that is? Because
With
Jasira has
monk
no
unarmed
qualm
strike.
with him.
I think Sindri did pretty good.
I think the best part about Noah not having run the for anyone who isn't familiar and happens to be watching this or listening in now, is a character that I developed and played in Noah, who plays the Shalt. He ran a character in his world, and that was the character that I brought in and had backstory with Bree's character in that game. And he basically was in this spot right off the bat, first mission in, where he was dying and gave this huge in-game secret off right off the bat, and then got his legs crushed but didn't die, and then was like, I'm dipping out of here. Yeah,
Frickin'
leaving
crippled
out
in
of
a
here,
wheelchair.
washing my hands, and has been kind of working in the background the entire time through that game as it went. And we had always wanted to come back and do kind of a culmination that kind of went through the secrets that happened. And Iz was very much a playboy, a loose with the rules, an
He wasn't a
experimental
playboy.
with everything.
Tony Stark is a playboy. Iz was a fuckboy.
He's a fuckboy, yeah.
This is fair.
Now, for the record, I still like him as a character creation. It's just the Mari prejudice is there, so it's really
Exactly,
hard to be
and
like, I love Iz. So I'm like,
that
no, fuck
is-
it.
That is exactly why I pulled that character in. And if you go back and look
Yep.
at the episode that is there, that episode is titled Pride and Prejudice.
Pride and Prejudice. Yeah.
And
Yep.
the entire core of that character actually got carved out and put into Aegon. All of the fuckboy
My
stuff
boyfriend.
that happened, all of that was pulled out, and I stuck it right into Aegon. And has kept a lot of the core personality aspects, but there's also been a lot of changes that I was curious if that prejudice would come through, and it very much has, and it's been wonderful to see.
Yeah.
Because it's played out exactly as I had hoped, where he is what he is, and he's not the most talented, he's not the most... He's just kind of that person that is easy to just be upset with and be like, I don't like you, but I don't really know why. It's just this kind of feeling that I have, but then he's just incredibly lucky and incredibly charismatic with how he handles certain things, in that he seems to be a bumbling idiot and then manages to be in the right place at the right time for certain things. And so it's been really interesting to see everyone's interactions with him, the characters that have prior knowledge of the old Iz, and the characters that don't have that, and how they've kind of conflicted and changed in how they treat that character.
You can still impress Jasira. There's still time.
Clyde's gonna have fun with his.
Is always
But
a
yeah,
fun character.
I want to step back for that hot take on Octavius, and the reason why I loathe him as Bree and kind of as Jasira is mostly because he reminds me of Varric from Legend of Korra, and I hated that fuck. Oh my god, so bad. And then his assistant was just so good. She's like, "Oh my god, I love him," and I was like, "Dude, he's such a fucking dick." Oh my god. And I wanted to like squish him, and like Octavius is just him, but like not an inventor.
And it's
So like
funny,
he's even more useless.
It's funny that you
useless.
mentioned that because
Oh.
Varric actually was one of the influences for Octavius, and if you
Not
ever
surprised.
run into Octavius in his natural element, he actually does have an assistant that works in his theater.
He has a Julie. Oh my god.
So there's definitely things to look forward to that if we ever get there.
I think
Clyde
that was
hasn't had any
also-
problems with Octavius. Just thinks he's a spoiled nobleman who has no right to be out on the island where he was.
I guess like zooming out from the table and looking at it from like a DM perspective, I think, and I don't know if you did this intentionally or not, but creating this like dichotomy between working folk and nobles all being on the island together really drove the party together as just like functional people, and it gave the party this respect for each other because all of us like launched into fix mode and all like sort of found our little niches on how to help create like this camp to sustain people and things like that. And all these noble fucks were like, you know, doing their own thing and being all hoity-toity on top of like, you know, that. And then they had lost all their power essentially on the island. So it drove the party together. And if
what you're saying is the DM created the middle class.
if you planned that, chef's kiss. That was fucking excellent.
The survivors that I chose, I spent a long time developing and a long time choosing who I wanted to be involved. And they were very purposefully meant to be strong personalities on all regards, so that you guys had options. And you guys spent a lot of time with Octavius and with Jazargo, and even with the dwarves a little bit, but there were a lot of involved personalities that you didn't even touch. And so there were just a lot of different ways that it could have gone, and that it could have developed. And I was interested to see which way that it went. I think the way that it did end up going was what I thought would be most likely, because I think that people like Jazargo and Octavius in particular are very loud and very upfront. But I was curious to see if anyone explored some of the quieter personalities, or some of the people that weren't right at the forefront. And it didn't end up happening much. But these are characters that were chosen for a reason, and chosen because they represent aspects and core concepts of the campaign to come. And so it'll be interesting to see how you guys interact with those concepts when it comes up, without having kind of a view into it from the get-go. And then how
What concept does Cesare cover?
Cesare and Jazargo
Getting
were a pair.
fucked.
So Cesare and Jazargo were a pair. They both were to around the core of kind of that discovery, innovation, the technology side of the world that is coming in, because they're both artificers. There were quite a few that were, and part of the process of selecting who the survivors were thinking through who it would make sense that would have been grabbed off the streets of Carlacton, or who would have been grabbed otherwise, because they really only stopped in Carlacton and in the estate outside of the city. Were the only two places that they picked up individuals outside of Clyde.
I was about to say, and then Clyde,
yeah.
who was minding his own damn business.
Exactly. And so
Then you
Clyde
must
was
be really special if they made a specific stop just for you.
Right?
Clyde was
Just notice
it was like the
this
patient
dude on the
zero.
cart.
Clyde was the one that they grabbed and was like, we're gonna test this on them, and that's why Clyde was the only one who actually had the tadpole in his eye to start with. But as I went through, and so like Jazargo and Cesare were people who would have been at the House of Inspired Hands, who would have been artificers working there, and so was Dundigan, and the other dwarf just happened to be a companion of his that was walking through the streets at the time of the attack. And so when this happened, there's a the House of Inspired Hands is in the noble district, and so that's why you got a lot of the nobles. But with this kind of mix of the common folk of the guards that were there, who would have been just kind of patrolling the streets that don't live there, it's much above their station, but that have reason to be there, and so it gave this really nice wide flexibility of personality types that I could all put at the island and see which ones you guys were attracted to, and then kind of flesh that out from there.
I think that was also ties into the reason why a lot of us don't like Octavius specifically, because all of our characters launched into self-sustained mode. We all had that survival instinct.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of went, I'm good at talking, so I'll just boss everybody around. And it went like, we're all like,
hey,
all right, cool.
All right, you
that's a
do you,
survival
bro.
instinct.
We'll go actually
Like,
fix things.
The person who can actually get everyone together and organize them to do all the work for them, that is a survival instinct. Honestly, it's a very valuable survival instinct that very few people have.
But
That's true, but if it gets bad enough,
that in the group, Cade and maybe one of the more military NPCs, because there were a couple groups there.
Yeah.
that's
But
true. But if
with
it turns to the point where
who didn't
Yeah.
have the power anymore,
Yeah.
could pull that in and just had
Yeah.
no
No,
influence.
it's very valuable, but if you
Right.
have multiple people with that skill in the same place, and then one of them only has that skill, they're
Yep.
useless as fuck.
Yep.
you just make yourself really high on the list of people to eat when we run out of
Yeah.
food.
Yes.
So the funny part with this is when I developed the island kind of right before the campaign started, and I was putting the last finishing touches on the NPCs, we happened to be watching on Netflix Total Drama Island. And for those of you who are familiar in that, it is very much the satirical approach to all of those island survival reality
man.
TV shows. And Octavius is very much meant to be the character that everyone hates that makes it to the end of the island. Like, that is his
Yep.
character to a T. That is like, I am the leader, and like you'll see different aspects. The other I mentioned some of the influences for Octavius, but Heather from Total Drama Island definitely got some of the influence for Octavius too.
I fucking knew it. Mm-hmm.
But I thought that was a fun approach to the island. I don't know if anyone picked up on that. It was pulled around with different aspects of a reality TV show, but there was definitely that kind of spin on it too.
We were playing Survivor for those sessions, weren't we?
I mean, there's a lot of it that went into that. Yeah.
By the way, I did fine on the rope bridge. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Like, that was fine.
Oh, no, that
Also-
was great.
Also, actually, yes. I was gonna say that Justira did surprisingly well. So, not as nervous as I could be.
Rope bridge
Well, I
is
went
fine. Not a
first
big
because,
deal.
of course, he would. Didn't know any of the party well enough to know that any of you could do any of that shit.
Yeah.
Get to the other side after almost dying 3 times. You just walk across it.
Yeah, that bridge was something else. That bridge was supposed to happen during combat, which probably would have ended
No.
in all of your deaths with how badly
Yes.
it went.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
The bridge was more of a threat to us than the bear.
The bear that we weren't supposed to fight.
Yes.
Yeah, the
bear
bear was-
that was supposed to chase us across the bridge because it was such a bigger threat, but Roland just went chink chink with a dagger.
I mean, that's
How you do.
I mean, that's the best part about the new crit rules, though. That's what I really love about them, is that sometimes you just kill somebody, and it's just like, how did that happen? I don't know, lucky, I guess. And it's great. I love that aspect of hero story. And
What are
of
you waiting for, kid?
storytelling.
I don't know. Something amazing, I guess.
Yeah. Goodness. All right, let's see what else we got here. Oh yeah, this is what I want to know. And we haven't heard from Nicholas in a while. What does Sindri intend to do with this bowl, if/when he gets it back?
I'm sorry, what? What was the question?
What does Sindri intend to do with the big metal bowl?
Oh, that is very much determined on what the DM is going to let Sindri do. But
Some in real life charisma checks are gonna have to be made.
yes. But like possible plans is to just make a really shiny armor. As
You're just
apparently
on
people
fire at all times.
That would be
Yes.
badass as fuck.
It'd be
though.
dope. Until we find out what this fire burns, because I assume it's something stupid.
So whenever you guys took interest in that, because for the island, I had a very like high level overview of what it was, and then as you guys got interested in more details, I would go in and flesh more of that out because I had the general direction, know what the island is, and then you got obsessed. There were a few things that you kind of touched on, but nobody really went into detail. You're like, oh, that's kind of cool. There's got to be something here, but didn't go into it enough to really get too many answers. And then the legend lore happened. And I was like, oh, I guess this is where I'll get to pull out some of the fun lore that they had kind of missed along the way. And then Sindri attached to this metal disc, and I had to go through and be like, okay, what is this disc? How does it work? Why is it here? What is going on? What is the enchantment? And now I know everything about this stupid metal disc and what it is capable of. And it's all just because you guys get obsessed with pulling this thing that you have no business carrying to carry with you.
Outstanding.
And it's just
You're welcome. This is making you a better DM.
yeah.
It
Sindri's
is-
original plan was to use it to
spend so
make
much
himself
time
a
on
set
this.
plate
When
armor.
you're old and senile, you'll remember that.
yeah.
Yeah.
He's gonna be losing his mind. The disc. It's still on fire. It's burning.
Like, if the DM lets me, I want to make plate armor out of it. Was Sindri's high tier goal. But I never got explicit permission that
I
is
know
possible.
we're never doing a sneak check ever again, because that's got to be like triple disadvantage. If you're literally glowing on fire,
Hear me out.
No,
we have
but
3
but remember-
smiths that aren't down for this to armor Sindri in flame.
yes.
Maybe
But
2
and
and a half.
also remember,
A rogue that's down for getting a breastplate made out of the same stuff as long as it doesn't
Yeah.
glow.
and my character does have the racial spell pass without a trace, so we can mitigate the consequences. Glowing
Wait, time out.
Sindri.
That brings up a really good point. Since half of the spire is yours, is half of the plate mine?
Oh.
No, because I let you have half of the spire because you helped carry it. The plate, you was very much mostly Sindri. You
Damn.
could probably argue to Sindri, but Sindri in his head is not thinking you own half of the plate of the dish. He would be willing to share. Whatever's left, if I can make plate armor, whatever's left, Sindri would be quite happy to share. And I'm quite small, and it's a big dish.
Something tells me you would be able to make a full suit of plate armor out of 10% of that disc.
It's not that thick is the problem.
yeah, it's,
Well, Sindri is not that big either.
Yeah, but like a full suit of plate, like just talking about surface area, like is a rough approximation of the disc. You could probably get a little bit more out of it for Sindri, but
It's a
It's-
10-foot disc.
I'm here helping Sindri build this thing.
all right.
Hands
still,
down.
Still 2.0 out of magic flame metal.
Oh, there we go. There
just
we
got a
go.
boiler and
Exactly.
Ooh. That way it's just in your backpack and you're constantly making booze.
Can we also like combine this with the gnome flinger and just make Sindri Comet like ripping
Yeah.
through the sky like covered in blue flames?
Oh my goodness!
Oh, we're gonna need a gnome flinger or two.
I love it.
These are party goals. How are we going to get in the city?
Talking
Launch the small one.
talking
It'll
about
become big.
talking about goals. What is a goal or something that each player or each character wants to see come up in the campaign or in the story?
Well, Clyde's a little bit older, so his goals are a little more, I guess, not nuanced, but he's got a little more character to him. He doesn't want to necessarily go on this big, huge adventure. He was he had a dream that he put out and he thought it might be something, but it's been like 3 years since then.
I think this is really cryptic, but I think I'm not going to elaborate on this at all. But somewhere in the world there are 13 orphans and Boko's first prototype prosthetic.
And there might be 13 moons.
So that's something that I would love to see come up, but I refuse to elaborate on any of it.
All right, I need to start taking notes here on that.
For Sindri, I would very much like if to figure out who Sindri's parents are, because I intentionally, in my background, if you paid attention, Austin, made it very not necessarily saying who is his parents, except he has his dad who says he's his dad and accepted, and then the mom is unknown. And also, Sindri would like to wrestle an ancient dragon to the ground at some point.
Clyde knows where there might be one of those. He's seen one of them. Maybe.
Level 18 Sindri will be able to be 64 feet tall, and he's going to wrestle a dragon.
Clyde might have been real drunk at the time, but he saw one.
And the dragon will be the small one in this wrestling match. So,
I think we should just get our own ship, mount a gnome flinger to it, swoop it up so we can just fire you at other ships.
Yes.
Just have me become big and just break the ship.
Yeah. This is going to be our pirate scheme.
He's going to be going
under the shores. Yeah.
And then we just have the water Ganazi swim under to the wreckage and steal the stuff.
It's gone.
Yeah. I smash it to the bottom of the ocean, and the water Ganazi just swims down and collects it.
What about Jasira and Roland? Anything
Who collects you?
Difficultly.
He's got to shrink up first.
The gods collect Sindri.
But yeah,
there's a rope tied to me, so I become small, and you can just pull me back in.
Start winching him back up.
Reel him in.
Is there anything that Jasira is looking for?
Well, there's a lot, which I kind of outlined for you, but I will not outline here because that is going to get some deep dive. But trust me, some of it's kind of wholesome, but like still deep dive. We'll find out later. I think just more on the surface as we're kind of traveling and going on with the campaign, I would love for her to curb stomp Mr. Ronchon's ass, or however you want to say his name, that like plantation owner.
Oh, yeah.
I want her to curb stomp his ass. He can be a new Jim. I think that sounds fun. Yeah, I think that'll be really cool. And I want to learn more about the Gilded Man, but we'll see how that goes.
And what about
name,
for Roland?
the Gilded Man?
Lord Drop.
I don't know. Maybe finally be able to hit something with his rifle.
That would be great.
Okay, we're talking in the realm of possibility here.
Okay. More realistic.
What color do you want your dragon?
Pro tip: break it over your knee. You'll get better.
Being able to bring the power of creation home.
It's so interesting and honestly so, I don't know, reassuring and validating that these things that you guys have mentioned are all thoughts that I've had and are things that I've tried to address in the campaign writing. It makes me very excited for what we have.
Sindri's wrestle match with a dragon.
So, a core principle of my belief is that if I am ever running a game that is titled Dungeons and Dragons, there better well be at least one dungeon and at least one dragon in it. Like, that's just my core belief. And it's interesting because at this point in time in the world that we have, dragons are seen more as myth and legend. The last reported sight of one is like 100 years ago.
Last reported sight was 2 weeks ago when it knocked us out of the sky.
Yeah, and now Well, and that's the thing is now after seeing these dragons that literally came, it is like seeing something out of a kid's storybook. And so you guys haven't gone back to the city, but the city is abuzz after this event, and rumors have spread like wildfire of dragons actually being real and kids being like, it's like if they just saw their favorite superhero out of their comic book come to life. Like that is how it feels like in the world. And so there will be opportunities to interact with dragons. I don't know how closely we'll get to one. One of them already happened, so it all depends on what happens. But if you really want to set your heart's desire on wrestling a dragon, you just might get a shot at it.
Outstanding.
And then there was a question from Bree. That was list the party members from 1 to 7 or 8 because of Tove, with 1 being the most liked or interesting and 7 or 8 being the least liked or interesting from Iz's perspective. And what I think is the core value of Iz's character and what he makes basically every decision, or what I make every decision for him on, is that he finds value and finds interest in every single person and every single character. And there will be a situation that comes up where Iz makes you feel like you are the most important person in the world. And that is his skill, that is his gift, that is how he influences so much with his charisma, and how he gets so much is that he just has this talent for knowing and understanding other people's talents and gifts and genuinely respecting them for it. And it's not necessarily duplicitous, it's not malicious, but he has this way of being able to leverage people for their own talents and making people feel good. And part of it is self-deprecating, like, and it even came up in the dance where like he had this masterful dance and spun it in a way where it looked like it was all coming from Cade, because of this way where he likes to build up other people around him, where he likes to give other people the limelight, where he doesn't mind being this buffling buffoon if it allows other people to have their moment. And it's very much got this aspect that I've seen in other people and that I have myself, of this like self-sacrificing to bring other people up, and is like a core aspect of his character. It was in the original character too, but it's been one that I pulled out even more in this new version. And so I truly believe that he sees, at least right now until things change, the initial interaction, the initial perspective of Iz on all of the characters is that he immediately locked into what made each of them valuable or interesting, and still sees them all on a very even playing field in that regard.
He's lying. It's the two elves.
Well, only
Not after that.
two for
Not after
one
that
deal.
dance with Cade.
2 for 1 deal. That's what he's going for.
I'm very interested to see how this next session goes, because I think that is going to be where some of this changes and where he begins to form some sort of
Where he gets to worm
bond.
into our hearts so you can tear him out and leave us with a gaping wound.
His secret goal is to make us all cry when Iz dies. After having everybody
And
hate
then
him
after
forever.
we cry,
That
Iz
will
gets up and
never
goes,
happen.
"Sight!"
that is his character to a T, though. It really is. But yeah, these games,
Spike, I still have my legs.
they're going to very much have him at the forefront, and he is going to
All 3 of them.
pull out different aspects of each of these characters that he's latched onto, that he's identified, and be like, I know that you have this. You're going to come play this game. You're going to come do this thing. I'm going to try and do this with you. And that's why I'm super excited for next session.
Roll 20 better be nice to me then.
It better not.
No!
It's all right. We still don't know who has inspiration for next time. So that'll be an interesting twist as well. That'll be fun to explore.
Not that it'll do most of us any good.
Yeah, it's
we'll
been-
be like, natural 1, inspiration, natural 2.
Hey, that is a big difference.
That's like twice the roll.
That's twice the roll.
Twice as good.
That's how that works, right?
Yeah.
All right. What?
We should just skip ahead to level 6 and stay there for a while. Level 6, I get all my stuff I want to do for shenanigans.
So I will say that because this game is a longer term game, and because I've had so much time to plan and have a lot of stuff that I want to get to, levels will come slower. That's why you guys are only just now getting into level 4 stuff. I think level 5, let's see, when does level 5 comes? Yeah, it's still a good ways away.
After we kill the undersea titan.
Oh god.
Fucking
Can we stop?
Ryzen half-caster right now.
Sindri will be happy if we stop doing this ocean adventure. That's
Level
what
5
Sindri
would be
wants.
so nice. I'd get all my bardic inspiration on a short rest. That'd be so much more effective.
Yeah, they will come, but I think a lot of this next portion, the island was good classic D&D with a good mix of RP and combat. This next adventure, this next arc out with the pirates is not that at all. It is exploring many different things, exploring many different aspects of social interaction and how to use different character abilities, not just your own RP abilities, to influence those social interactions. And so we'll get to a lot of that. We're also going to have very different approaches to combat. Naval combat was the first of those. I think that honestly went a lot better than I was worried.
Yeah, it was great.
I was really happy with how that went. That one was one
Also,
that came out really fast with all the rules, and so it worked pretty well, I think.
You still need to watch the new Avatar movie.
I do. I do.
Ruh-roh.
I feel like there's some electric whale in there. Or some whale comment. I don't know. But I do need to get to that
A
eventually.
whale of a tail.
A whale of a tail.
Oh, it's a whale of a tail.
But yeah, so we're exploring a lot of different ways to do combat. Because with this whole exploration thing, those concepts don't apply just to the concepts of what we're exploring with the game story, but also to how we're implementing the game. And so with the feat tree changes and with the kind
where
of
a single
focus,
tree has 20 plus choices.
Yeah. So there's going to be a lot of other ways to solve problems rather than just hitting it with a stick. And that's still a viable option, as Sindri has pointed out many
Sindri's
times.
got a really big stick.
Yeah, but there's a lot more options than that that I'll be excited to explore and to get into.
I'm excited for us leaning into the feat tree stuff. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah, there was some wild stuff in it.
It is very much meant to shake things up and provide kind of the next step. The whole idea behind the enhancement suite was to allow people who are familiar with D&D 5e and who want that flexibility to kind of get more character options. Because I think that there is a wide scale when it comes to role-playing games. I think that D&D 5e does a great job of giving power to the dungeon master and being flexible, which makes it great for an intro game. And Pathfinder and like 3.5 is great at giving tons of options to the player and allowing tons of character versatility and viability. And I think both are great games for those very different reasons.
Pathfinder's hell on earth for a DM, though.
Exactly. And so trying to keep everyone's build straight and trying to keep all of the feat trees straight, because Pathfinder has, or not trees, but the feats and classes, and there's just so much within Pathfinder. There's rules for everything, and so as a DM, you feel responsible to know that if you want your story to happen. And so I really liked the flexibility that D&D 5e and the power that D&D 5e gives to the DM to tell the story. But I wanted to give players who were already familiar with 5th edition and with the extent that it gave to character building something new to play with, and something new to get excited about and to toy with when they're character building and exploring options. And so that's entirely what the enhancement suite is. And then while I was doing that, I wanted to explore a couple other aspects. One, bringing strength to all the ability scores. So that's why we changed over to using stamina and health, is because it also brings some realism to fighting, where you're not just taking a bunch of cuts and bruises that are healed the next day. You're now using endurance and using your physical stamina to fight, and then you're only getting wounded rarely, and when you do, it's a much longer lasting effect. But that change has also made strength, the ability score, more important. And there's changes that have made intelligence a much stronger, more powerful ability score as well. And some of that we haven't even gotten into because we haven't even explored the Weaver class. That we won't get into until the second half of the campaign, but I'm super excited about that. I've been working on that character class, and so getting to reveal that and all of the lore that has in the game will be very fun. Any other questions for me? We've been getting a lot of character stuff with which I love, but is there any other questions? I may not be able to answer them all, but that you have for the DM. Check stream, make sure nobody joined. Yeah, we're good.
I think what are some of the shocks or some of the unexpectedness that you've seen from the characters that I guess you wouldn't have originally thought would have come out of their characters?
Yeah, what are some moments that you had to improv because we threw you for a loop? Two separate questions, but
very, very different questions.
Yeah, very different questions, but kind of coming at the same core. I think obviously the first one then that I talked about a little bit already that comes to mind is the disc. Because one, I just never thought that, because it's not easy to get that thing off. I was like,
I didn't think he would, and then I didn't think he could.
I made it very difficult because I was like, I don't want to deal with it. As soon as I saw Sindri going over there, it's like, I don't want to deal with this. This is not practical. This is not logistical. Just leave it behind so that I don't have to deal with it. And he was persistent, and he rolled well. And so I never want to not reward a player just because I don't want to deal with something or because I have my own biases against it. Like if a player really wants it, I want to at least give him the opportunity to succeed. And in that case, Sindri was able to succeed with it. And I'm like, well, now how is he going to get it to move? How is he going to get it around? And then he just rolls it down the street. And I'm like, well, that gets it most of the way. And then the pirates are there, and the pirates are big enough, and that will be interesting to them too. So they'll take it as treasure. Sure. But now we got to figure out, like, I had to go in and figure out, okay, well, if Sindri gets it back, what is he going to be able to do with it? What is he going to be able to build with this? And then seeing him instantly, as soon as he gets on the ship, go right to it for what he wants, I was like, okay, so this is a very high priority for him, and I have to make it a lower priority until we get done with this portion because we just can't deal with it now. So that was definitely something that had to be improv'd. Because something else that has been difficult.
Sindri got like 12 rolls, with the lowest one being like a 23. Yeah. He deserved that dish.
He very much did. But something else that I've been trying to explore as a DM for some time, and that goes back all the way to when I ran the module for the DMs group with the group of paladins, is I really want to capture a way of making it where there are a lot of NPCs and you're able to see the depth of that and fleshing out those characters. And it is nearly impossible to do all at once. And so what I've been trying to do is choose a couple of characters for each session that the party interacts with that are important at different points. And so, like, if you think about the pirate ship, you'll immediately think about you'll probably think about the blue orc. You might think about Valeris and Corwin, who you've had some interactions with. You'll think about Aegon. And there's a lot of people that you've like seen or heard of, like Octopus Man or the Tiefling, or even Aegon's bodyguard women that have been kind of alluded to and kind of pointed to, but I haven't spoken as, I haven't RP'd, and that's very much on purpose. That's very much as I am slowly trickling them in. And if you guys ever go to them, I know who they are, I know their motivations, I can go into that. But it's easier for me to kind of filter them through one at a time or kind of in small groups, so that I can give them that fleshed out personality that is difficult to do all at once. And so when Sindri went over directly to the disc, I was like, oh shoot, I have to pull in a pirate that I'm not prepared to RP right now. And so Rhoda, who is the dwarf who has the octopus, I kind of pulled him in, and it was very raw, very improv on the moment. And so that's happened multiple times. That happened too with the characters, the survivors on the island, because I was going to do a same approach with them. And you guys had like jumped straight into certain characters that you had latched onto, and so Jazargo very immediately got latched onto, and I was like, oh, okay, I've got to make sure that I have this character known and understood right away. And that the fact that you guys so quickly jived as a team, I don't think I was quite ready for. I thought it was going to take a little bit more and have a little bit more time for you guys working as efficiently as you did. And so the fact that you were ready to just commit to something like saving Cesare or protecting Jizargo definitely made it where I had to shift the plan a little bit, because there were supposed to be multiple people from the island that were taken, and the fact that only Cesare got taken had a major impact on the story of the island.
So kind of interjecting there
Yeah.
a little bit, I was, as a player running through this, seeing the variety of personalities and how in the hell are we all going to work together, and looking at that and looking at people being taken and going like, oh my gosh, we're all gonna die out here if we don't work together.
So
and going, this is
have
taking
to.
way too long to jive. Like that is the spot that I was personally in. I don't know if anyone else was in, but of just going like, we have to form together as a team now or we all die.
Well, and that led to a lot of really interesting role play between.
Yeah.
Like, well, we don't really know each other. We don't really know what's up with the other players' characters. But
I also
we're
think-
disappearing and being taken, so we have to.
And I think that was
Or else
really
we get
interesting.
Cesara'd.
One of my
Yeah.
favorite parts was, again, the same night that
Right.
Boko and Roland offered the
Alright,
fish
that-
to Tove and Jasiro. Boko and Roland were sitting there, knew what was going on in the trees, heard the scream and went, yeah, that's to be expected. Heard the other scream and went, wait a minute. That was one
That
of
one's
the
not
best
right.
moments.
Yes.
Yeah, and that
And
was
the
kind
second
of
scream was actually Jasir's son dying.
Yeah.
so the
R.I.P.
second scream was Jizargo. The first scream was Jasir's son.
Yeah, okay.
it-
So neither of them were Clyde?
Clyde's
We did.
a tough little guy.
I don't think so. Clyde's scream was later, right? Clyde's,
Was it?
I don't remember.
So from the Boko Roland perspective, we were sitting there knowing that people were going off into the woods for a medical procedure, so we expected the
Expected us-
first scream
yeah,
to
no,
be
you're
Clyde.
right. You're right. It was Clyde and Jizargo. Jasir's
okay.
son died earlier, but wasn't part of the screams. I got that mixed up.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you're right on that one. But yeah, the fact that people were disappearing was ultimately supposed to kind of pull you guys together, but it just happened faster than I expected. And so I didn't get as many of the islanders taken as I had originally expected before it happened.
So we were supposed to have more sessions on the island, is what I'm hearing.
Oh,
no,
I don't
it
like
was just
that.
supposed to be
Less
more
sessions on the bridge.
Yeah. Yeah. So I kind of expanded the section of the travel and what you guys interacted because you left so early. I was expecting there to be 2 or 3 nights on that beach as you kind of built a camp before you ever went after. It happened. The island itself was built where there were multiple things that you could do and multiple ways that you could get off. The easiest ways, yeah, thank you, David. The easiest way was with the pirates coming and picking you up, and that was kind of what I was expecting to happen, but there were other opportunities for you guys to get off the island.
Oh, we could have made some deals.
Yeah, there were other things to discover. And
Oh, this
so
campaign could be real different.
Cade kind of pulling out
We
the
could have
map.
built our own ship.
Out of bones.
There is
Sindri wanted to dig out. Y'all wanted with the boat.
Okay, how you gonna dig out of an island?
Very
What do you mean how?
A hammer
You
and a
dig
shovel.
down. It's perfect. What do you? There is no question here. You dig down. You dig the same way you normally would.
And then you find water.
No, it is the island would be floating around the ocean if it had water under it.
Nicholas, are you aware of the concept of the water table?
Listen to this. Sindri is confident in his ability to reach the Underdark.
It's a flat
Fair.
world, so if you dig too far, you'll just fall at the bottom.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
great.
Oh, but then you have to
Like
fight the
Minecraft.
tortoise that's holding it.
God.
No, it's
Oh,
like Minecraft.
gosh.
Everything floats, and there's just bedrock at the bottom. But if you find a way through that,
Oh, then you're fucked.
Goodness. But yeah, I'd say that those so far have been kind of the biggest moments that have kind of thrown me for a loop. There's been other cool things that you guys have done that I haven't expected, but nothing that has been like too radically different from what I had kind of laid out. Honestly, things have gone way closer to plan than I'm used to, and so I'm just waiting for something to come and just drastically screw up what I have planned. Like when like when you guys teleported across the world in the last game. Yeah,
no, we're in trouble. Bard Castle.
Yeah, I gave them a magical item that allowed them to teleport because I wanted them to be able to move. And whenever they were in trouble, David's character just took it and teleported to his bardic fortress that was halfway across the world that I had given him in his backstory.
Because I wrote a backstory and went, I'm going to reach for the moon here. I'm writing a level 14 backstory. I'm going to say I already own a castle and make Austin take it away from me. And then I send it to him and he goes, no, I like this. I went, what?
We lost Jewel in the works, though. My little Jewel hopper. Because we had too many fucking bodies.
Rip Jewel.
This is why you don't get to have animals in D&D. They just die or get left behind to be destroyed or whatever.
It's so hard when you
I
have
had a
something with like
giant
9 hit
squirrel
points.
that I mutated into an elemental. They can't survive. And he's living his best life right now.
Austin likes
Yes.
to kill them.
Squirrel's still
It's
alive?
fine.
Yes!
Oh my
And he-
god.
It's not a squirrel anymore.
It's
Now
long.
it's an order elemental.
Nibbler is still alive.
Yes!
Yes.
Rock
Nibbler in the
power than
chat.
ever.
Oh,
That is wild.
I'm so happy. Are you guys still the Squirrel Knights?
People still call us that. We're like, oh yeah.
We were that once upon a time.
Oh gosh.
Gosh. I love this game. But yeah, outside of Nibbler, most pets die because they have like 10 hit points. So
Well, that's why you have to power up the
That's
pet.
why you
Yeah.
go, hey DM, can they just eat this weird thing and power up? Well, sure.
it could
Hey,
happen.
Training
DM.
Jewel.
Can he do it again?
I was training Jewel to help me pick locks. It just didn't go very well, okay?
I just wanted a big squirrel at like session 10, and that squirrel stayed with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100 sessions
I
later.
remember that.
Mushu survived the entire campaign.
I was saying, we
Yeah.
talked a couple times that if we ever have to do a low level, I'm going to play Nibbler.
Oh yeah, no, there's gonna be like a shorter side quest because they have their own side adventure they're doing.
We have
Right.
we have a B team that's been built up
Yeah,
of
B
lower
team.
level characters.
there's a B team that has been built up and doing their side adventure while the main plot's happening.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, while our characters are doing end of the world stuff that people don't really do in D&D, this B team is doing all the important stuff like information gathering.
Yeah, Nibbler and the wife
Yeah, like
oh my
what's her
gosh.
name? Shit.
lean over.
Yeah, lean over.
Yep.
No.
Lightbringer's wife.
Oh gosh. That game
Probably
was
some
Lee
wild.
from the Nover family, which
Yeah.
nobody caught on except for Austin, and then you gave it away
What
to
are you talking
everyone.
about? Ben, I knew her dad's name was going to be Ben. I knew it. There was no other name that was going to be appropriate.
Oh no.
All
I was
right.
talking about it this week. Do you remember the name for her mom? I have it written down somewhere, but I couldn't remember it.
Are you asking me?
There's a mom. Her mom also
Also had another
I don't
funny
remember.
a name.
Anyway,
Yeah,
but
remember.
back to this campaign. Is there any spot on the world, either from the world lore or your backstory, or the maps or past experience in the campaign, that your character would like to visit?
Literally anywhere.
Back.
I'd love to get back to
From the tower.
Carlacton at some point.
One of the other giant tribes.
Oh,
Carlacton has some of my shit still. I want
Yeah.
it.
No, that's gone now.
Yeah,
You've been gone
Galactic
for 2
It
weeks.
can't be. It's too important.
Carlacton has my rope.
Ah, yes.
Those bastards.
Roland has a little apartment in Carlacton, and there's just tons
has
of rope in it.
That's it. Bed, rope, coffee table, rope.
By Cade's assessment, Carlacton as a whole is a better rogue than fucking Roland.
Oh my god.
I was in a library.
Obviously, you should have rope.
Always be prepared.
Gotta be ready to bind the books, you know.
They're naughty books.
What are you in here looking for? Books of
Let's go
bondage?
ahead.
Oh,
jeez.
tying up all the books.
Oh, that was beautiful.
This is fucking terrible.
Oh man. All right, we'll wrap it up with just this last picture, last question, since
no.
Hey, why?
That's no.
No. I'm gonna move right
No.
on past that. We're gonna
What
wrap
the
it up
fuck
with one
just happened?
last question here.
How dare you make me see that with my own eyes?
Nobody on stream
I
is gonna know
I
what's
was
going
just
on.
staring at that part of the screen and I couldn't look away. It captured like part of me in that moment.
What a fucking terrible day to have eyes.
I mean, you could just be like Roland and lose one. Then you can close the other, and you know.
No, I need that right
It'll
now.
be fine.
Anyway, what has been your guys' favorite moment up to this point in the campaign?
Sindri getting the dish.
That was a highlight.
It's a good one.
That's going to be one of Sindri's highlights for the entire campaign, is getting that dish.
Roland numbing his arm after
Oh
testing
my
it
God.
for 24 hours. One time, you had a clear shot with your rifle. No, the arm don't work.
Can I just like and then put the rifle there and aim? No, you can't. Ah, fuck.
It's a good question. I think mechanically the fight with the whale was so fucking awesome. It was
It
so
worked so
much
well.
fun.
Good. I'm glad.
He's getting body slammed.
But I also felt that if we did it again, we would do it so much better, understanding it.
Well, and that's
I think we would do it so much worse without the same amount of luck.
I agree.
that was part of the great part of it. Is it was a wonderful introduction to the naval combat, but that will not be the last time that we do naval combat. I can assure you that.
No, we still need some the halfling throwers. No
And before
cause-
there's
Cannons. We have someone who knows how to make
Airships.
guns on the ship. All we have to do is upscale the gun.
Oh,
Dude.
upscale the steam so it pulls in the seawater and blasts the ship with a huge wall of steam.
that, and we have
Yes.
And then it moves you away, moves them away, causes damage.
No. We gotta get to boarding.
that, and instead of towers, we have giant prosthetics that just reach out and grab things.
Just
Or, like,
claws,
Just
lobster
grow off
claws.
of the ship and puncture into the other one and serve as
Oh
like
no, we're
boarding
not
planks.
making our ship sea hentai. No.
Oh, absolutely, it's happening.
See hentai, yes.
I'm going to
Full
fuse
circle.
myself with the ship.
The
One
great
with
ship.
One with the ship,
technically-
one with the crew. One with the crew, one with the ship.
What about for you, Bree? Have you had a favorite moment so far?
Literally, both my favorite moments have to do with Boko. So, like, I think Boko's just my favorite moment. I don't know.
Yeah.
Loud voodoo
He's got
noises.
him getting slapped down by like a deity is another top moment.
Like,
That was fucking
yeah.
awesome.
That was
Boko
pretty
is
cool.
happy for once in
One
his life and just
single
gets
moment.
slapped out of heaven.
No.
That was amazing.
No. No happiness for you.
Mine would have to be just the ongoing conflict of is Roland a melee rogue?
Yes.
The number
So
of
funny.
crits I've pulled off with a dagger or with the
gosh.
buttstock of my rifle.
You're gonna have to get a bayonet to have best of both worlds.
Yes.
Or when you were
Honestly,
you
that's
had
just a-
citrus
I wonder if I
vision
could
and you made
bayonet
that
it
blind
here,
stab.
Probably.
That kill on the Mind Flayer was probably to date the most game-changing moment that happened, because it was
just
so
hand-eye.
close. It was so close to drastically changing the entire course of the game.
Oh lordy.
It was intense. I gotta know.
Yeah,
Brie,
especially because the title of that session was what? The Scout or something?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And the whole I built it all the way into that campaign of getting out dual daggers again, pulling into how I fought in my backstory. That's how in his first fights he fought was with twin daggers, and then going in with that and then double critting. Oh.
Bree, what were the 2 moments of Boko's that were your favorite? I gotta know.
Oh well, first of all, I really loved the voodoo one because it was just, again, it could have gone anywhere, and I think, although it wasn't like directly applicable, it was adjacent enough that it was like, this power is really cool.
I'm glad that went over that way, because I felt like such a dick, because it was like I rolled the
Like,
dice and
I
it was
can help
totally
you.
not useful.
No, so
But-
the way it landed with her is like, I feel for that child. Because, like, that, what you don't know, what I know, is like, they kind of like mesh. She's like, I feel for you. So, like, I understand. And so she had like a little bit of a heartfelt moment. And then, of course, the other one was just me being so awful and not hitting, not landing, and then
Then the smile.
magical DM moment of, yeah, you can totally transfer inspiration because we need this. And it worked!
It was.
It worked so well! So,
It's
those
one
are
of
the two
those
moments.
things that you
Because it's
just
just like,
kinda
that shouldn't have
feel-
happened, but it did. And I'm grateful because, wow.
I think when people talk about rule of cool, that's like what I always envision, is that as a DM, sometimes you just feel, you're like, yeah, like, let's do this. This feels where the story is heading. And like, then the dice just reassure you. It's like that natural 20 drops at that moment. And you're just like, ah, yes, I knew there was something here. I knew this was the moment.
It's when the DM leans into the mic and goes, "Yeah, why the fuck not?"
Yeah. Yep. And I don't know, just literally every interaction Jasira has with Boko, I'm just like, oh shit, they actually are very similar, even though they're very different. This is so good. So,
That reminds me, one of my absolute favorite moments is at the very beginning, Boko was very shy and really trying to figure everybody out, and like didn't ask any questions, didn't really interact with people unless they interacted with him, and just wanted to watch and see what people were capable of. And then we came to the bridge, and everybody's like, I have this idea, I could do this, I'm gonna do this. And Boko was like, okay, I gotta see what everybody's capable of. And then they went, oh yeah, big guy, like what the fuck are you gonna do?
spider claw.
The spider crawl just was such a funny visual.
Like, all right.
So amazing.
Yeah, that was great. I think my favorite moment so far, in just that my favorite moments are always when I can just sit back and watch characters go, and that moment has been best encapsulated in the standoff that happened in front of the shrine in the forest, where it was
That's
just
fair.
like everybody was talking and taking sides, and there was intense conversation, and everybody was getting to these like very, very heavy feelings, and yet was able to take and move on the story afterwards. And it was just like such a perfect, poignant moment at the perfect time that it was just like, just everything I
Jasira
wanted.
tried not to do anything, and then Bird Bitch came in play, so you know.
That's another role
Shit
that I was just
happens.
like, I'm so glad this role happened.
That is the key, though, with like handling party conflict, is the being able to take sides and talk through things and then move on afterwards, right?
Mhm.
It's the
Mhm.
there is no line until you cross it.
Yep.
And just being able to find that balance of going for the party conflict without being afraid of, oh no, I'm going to ruin the night, but also, I don't know, there is no line until you've crossed it, and it's a shitty ass rule to put on someone, but at the same time, it's the best way to make it work.
at the same time, I think you have to really trust the people you're playing with, because
Yes.
at the very beginning of the game, you might only see one or two main parts of that character's personality that you completely disagree with, and you might be, opposed. But, 10, 20 sessions. Well, yeah, like 20 sessions later, you've discovered more about them, more things you can identify with, and those things that were sticking points at one point where you're like, I agree with this person much more than I disagree with them,
Mm-hmm.
So that's very interesting.
I think that's the biggest compliment that I have to pay to all of you guys, and it really comes back to why I wanted each and every one of you guys to play in this game, is because I think you have a talent for role playing and understanding those intricacies of the game at that level. And I really wanted to explore the role playing side and the world building side and the storytelling side of this game. And we are only scratching the surface here. Like, we are just getting into the initial stuff. Because we've just really dealt with character stuff. Like, the island had a few kind of breadcrumbs, but it wasn't much of you guys interacting with the world. Now what we're going to get into is stuff that really will push you guys and your boundaries with how you interact with those around you, not just with the party itself. And I'm super excited. You guys have been playing great, and it's been a joy to DM for all of you.
And we're only 4 or 5 months in to just finally scratch the surface.
Oh,
I know
Lord.
it's going to be
Wait, has
good.
it been that long?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Started in October.
It's a wild time. I know, it flies by.
Right?
It flies by.
We're on this would have been session 16.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
We're halfway to where when the shit hits the fan in most games, right? Session 30.
I think session 30 is when the tide turns.
Yeah, session 30. Keep an eye out.
Oh, Lordy.
Alrighty. Well, I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. That seems to be a pretty good stopping point. So thank you guys all for joining into this talk. I know it was a bit different, but hopefully it gives a good last send-off. Again, we'll have a break next week, and then we'll be back on the 19th for the Pirate Games in Traglorn. So tons of stuff to look forward to, and we'll see you then.